The next section, I actually like this one. Being frugal is a good thing, but retirees shouldn't go cheap on these 5 things. Now, one of the things, just being transparent, is, Yelisey, you and I are kind of in the opposite ditches on this one.
You're extremely frugal, and I just can't stop.
No, but I think it's great. I mean, I think I can say this. We were talking the other day, and Yelisey, you said, basically you have an Excel spreadsheet, and you can track every penny you've spent since 2012. I look at that, and I'm like, man, there's no way the Lord's not like, wow, Yelisey has the stewardship thing under control. And I'm more of, instead of working in like a budget, I more work in margins, like this percentage in savings, this percentage is investment, this percentage is, for kids, whatever.
I do that too. I just also track every penny.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. I'm just saying that we have listeners on both sides. But one of the things I notice is, even though you are frugal and some may say cheap, you also will spend on things that you value and things that are important and things that are quality. So for somebody coming into retirement, what are a couple of the 5 things that people shouldn't be cheap on, even if they're frugal?
Unfortunately, I haven't had to learn this the hard way, but I know a number of people who have. Healthcare expenses. When you're choosing between your plans, it might be tempting, like, hey, maybe you're healthy. Maybe you don't go to the doctors very often. Maybe you have no medications. And for you, it's tempting to maybe go with that catastrophic plan, or the one that's going to cost you the least amount. But one healthcare emergency will really help you change your mind on that. Whether it's, if you have a family, if it's your children or somebody else, it's not worth it, right? It's almost like being self-insured in a number of ways. And then you have one catastrophic event, whether it's, not even your health, but anything. And all of a sudden that person's the biggest believer in insurance, right? Nobody likes to pay for insurance, but when you need it, you're so happy you have it. So I would say that's one area that maybe isn't worth being as frugal as you possibly can, but maybe finding some middle ground there.
Yeah, absolutely. So number 2 is healthy lifestyle choices. I think a lot of people know that, if you spend more time in the gym and you eat clean, you're going to spend less on healthcare. But one of the things that I think is important is being thoughtful of, if you're coming into retirement, being even more intentional on what are you putting in your body. Yeah. I think too, even outside of the health piece, it's how you feel. I think one of the mind shifts I had a little over a year ago. So I can't brag too much because I still don't have the abs. But over the last year, I lost.
Yeah. Show the viewers.
Yeah. Well, the day I have them, I will. No, I probably won't. But I've lost 35 pounds. But here's one thing that shifted, and I still have a long ways to go. But one thing that shifted is I noticed that, like, when I would get stressed, I'd be like, oh, I could really use an Oreo McFlurry from McDonald's. And I would think about, like, how that would make me, I'd feel better having that. But one of the things that shifted is when I would think about something like that, instead of thinking about how good it would taste, I would think about how I would feel after, right? Yeah. And I think even more than like losing 35 pounds, I feel great that when I eat something healthier. So instead I'll go home and I'll put a bunch of fruit and whipped cream in a cup. And not only does it taste good, but actually feel great after. Mm-hmm. And so, one of those areas to focus on is healthy lifestyle habits, and not just to feel better, which I think is huge, but to also, keep the cost down on, your medical, which, impacts a lot of things.
It's expensive. It can be expensive to have some of those healthy habits. I mean, like good food, organic food, right? That's really expensive. And I don't recommend this for anyone, but what I kind of do is, I look for all the examples of people that have been extremely healthy, and they ended up dying early or getting some type of disease. And I say, hey, that's why I'm going to continue eating what did you call it? The McFlurry or?
Yeah, McFlurry or your morning cookies.
Yeah. So I rely on those types of examples to help me continue doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think another area, number 3 is, reliable transportation and home safety. We have a handful of clients that, man, they've done a great job of saving, a couple million, 4 million, 5 million bucks. And they joke that, their vehicles have 300,000 miles and they duct tape.
They need it.
And they are not joking, but I would encourage you, you don't have to go buy the BMW, but, invest in a nice Honda or Toyota. Invest in something that is going to keep you safe if something were to happen. When my wife and I, when we met, She was driving this 2001 two-door Honda Civic. The paint had like evenly wore off right down the hood and on the top of the car. And I remember thinking, man, that is an ugly car. But I was also impressed that she had a vehicle that didn't have a car payment. It was paid for, which is walking wisdom. And a couple of years later, we started talking about her car. And I said, hey, have you ever thought about getting a new car? And she goes, yeah, especially being that mine came with no airbag. And I said,
I forgot about that.
She goes, yeah, she said, I bought this vehicle and they never put a new airbag in. It was a salvage car, but it's what I could afford at the time. And I was like, you're not driving that one more day. I said, I'll help you pay for a new car. Let's go find something. And so she went and she bought her first Mazda 3. But, for her, like she was being wise with her finances, but as a, 20-year-old girl that didn't have a parents that could help her financially, she bought what she could, but didn't really understand how important it was to have a vehicle with an airbag. I mean, I was like, honey, please, we've got to get you something else, so invest in something that that's safe.
My dad and I, we fixed a few salvage cars over the years. And I got to say, we never skimped on the airbags. We always put those in. So
that is surprising.
I mean, save a buck where you can, but airbags.
I guess growing up in America did help you a little. Number 4, emergency savings. We see a lot of people that they never have an emergency savings. And I think outside of just having easy access, there is a level of like financial peace that comes with knowing that there's money readily available. And so I agree with Dave Ramsey on this. Like whatever your expenses are, you should have at least 3 to 6 months of expenses and emergency savings. We have clients that they keep $1,000 in emergency savings, which for me, that's uncomfortable. I know for many of them, it's because they feel like they would spend it if it's there. So, so know yourself. I know people that 10,000 is the right number. We have clients that 100,000 or 300,000 is the right number. So I think, I would recommend building up that savings to, at least 3 months of your expenses. So if your expenses are $6,000 a month, not your fixed, but your living expenses, you should have 18 or 20,000 in a fund that you have access to.
And that's a good point. It doesn't necessarily have to be a checking and savings account. It could be a money market fund in your brokerage account where you have access to that pretty quickly, right?
Right.
So, sometimes people think that, it's just sitting in your checking account, not earning any interest.
Right.
In today's market with interest rates where they are, and I know they're coming down a little bit, but there's a lot of better options and alternatives to that.
Yeah. And then last but not least, seek professional advice. One of the things that we found, Yelisey, is we meet with a lot of DIYers. So what does that mean? It means that they don't have a financial advisor. They've chosen to manage the money on their own. And we've seen people that have done a really good job because they'll take, 10, 15 hours a week. They'll study the market. They'll read the right articles, and they do a decent job that, it's good for them. But I would say a lot of the people that we meet, they think that they're saving money by not having an advisor. And we get into their portfolio and some of the decisions they've made. And not only did they cost themselves every year some return because they don't have efficient funds, but we a lot of times see that people will make a decision when the market has a downturn that costs them significantly more than the fee they would have been paying to a professional financial advisor. What would you add to that?
I think it's a mindset, right? And I kind of fall into this trap a little bit too, where I'm trying to save a buck in one area and then just, the secondary consequences, the ones that you don't really fully understand until they happen to you. Like that's what I'm kind of, I'm missing out on, where you end up taking a hit in a different area, but maybe it's not quite as obvious because, well, the market giveth and the market taketh away, right? But I'm saving a buck in this one area that's measurable, that I know for sure. And then, if I take a hit later, it's easy to disassociate those two things. But in reality, you're really not saving a buck a lot of times when you don't seek the counsel of a professional, whether it's a financial advisor or a tax advisor or a CPA. Really, that's where the true savings over time will happen, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, we have a lot of families that they've never paid an advisor before. They've just, they've managed it in the 401k, which isn't really managing it. You're just picking it from, you're picking maybe a target account fund out of the 12 funds they have available to you, or 20 funds, whatever that is. But one of the things that we've done is we've had a lot of families and individuals say, hey, we've never paid an advisor before, and we couldn't see the value in paying 1% for somebody just to pick the funds. And, our cost is anywhere from 0.5% up to about 1.25%. But we have dozens of families that have hired us that have never paid anybody. And they say, hey, for the fee that we're paying, not only do we have a professional team picking the investments, rebalancing the investments, we also have access to the tax advisor, to the Medicare specialist, to the Social Security specialist. And now we've got several appointments each year with a retirement planning specialist that helps us look at how do we bridge the income gap? How do we make changes when we have changes happen? And they go, now we feel like we're not just getting what we pay for, we're getting significantly more than what we pay for. And I think the fact that we have a 98% retention rate says that people don't just hire us hoping we can help. They end up finding that we're worth, our weight in gold, as they would say. Anything you want to add to that as the more conservative one out of the two of us?